In 2017, Ski-Doo introduced the Gen 4 platform into the REV lineup, but there was a bit of a hole at the top because there was no RS model to be found. That problem has been solved in 2018. The RS is back, but it's a spring-only model, so if you didn't pony up early, well, you're basically SOL. Now, if you're one of the lucky few who did spend the money in the spring to get yourself on one of these things, you can take this opportunity to go talk to DJ or get yourself something to drink because you already know what this buggy is all about. But if you're one of the ones who've been watching these sleds on the trails, wondering what you've been missing, well, this burns for you. Probably a good thing you don't know what you're missing, because if you did know what you were missing by not riding an RS, you would probably just write this whole season off, stay at home rocking back and forth waiting for next season. This sled is next level. When the Gen 4 chassis was introduced last year, it was quickly referred to as a cheater sled by the staff of OSM and STV. Packaged with the RAS3 front, R-Motion rear, and the new 850 E-Tech, this machine can turn just about any rider into Ricky Racer, instantly making them faster than more experienced riders on other sleds. Add the RS into the mix for 18, and this sled becomes an even bigger cheater than an Elvis impersonating card carrier at Vegas with an ace up their sleeve. It's that good. And it all starts right here. The mechanical bits and bodywork are packed tightly around each other to really give this thing a feeling of a small sled. I mean, it just feels tight and right. Plus, there's still plenty of room to hang ham off the side or belly up on the bars so you can do what you need to do going into the corners. Plus, the bars themselves, they're adjustable forward and back so you can adjust the sled to you and not the other way around. Plus, on the RS, the steering post itself, it's moved a little farther forward in the chassis, and that aids in the transition from seated up to standing. The suspension of the RS is also optimized for the rider who is looking for the best bump performance possible at any speed. But it isn't so stiff that it's unmanageable on anything but the biggest snowcross kickers. It's a nice compromise from the RS's racetrack heritage. Now, I've ridden snowcross sleds on the trail and they basically suck. So even though this sled is the closest thing you can get to the real thing, it still works in the real world. If there is a drawback to the G4 platform, and especially on the RS models, is the fact that this sled is so quick to turn, like a cat on a carpet, you really need to be on your game when you start to push the sled hard into the corners. But by that time, you're probably so far ahead of the other guys, you can afford to back off anyways, giving them a little bit of hope. And while we're on the subject of drawbacks, you're definitely not going to confuse this machine for a warm touring one, and that's because there's absolutely no windshield. I mean, you can't even call this thing a gauge cover because it doesn't even cover the gauges. So if you're planning on riding this buggy in the middle of the winter on those cold, crisp nights, I'd maybe think about putting a window in front of you. One thing that's not lacking on the RS is the amount of tuning this sled brings to the rider. It starts right up front with the Pilot TS adjustable skis. This knob can vary the height of the effective Keelan runner so you can tune for the snowpack depth of the trail. Then you've got the KYB Pro Level shocks that are both compression and rebound adjustable on the front suspension. Moving back, the steering post can also be moved fore and aft to vary up your ride position and to suit your style. Then, under the tunnel, you've got the R-Motion rear suspension that has both external preload and compression dampening adjustments for the rear arm. The front arm of the skid, though, is conventionally adjustable from underneath. Powering the RS is an 850 E-Tech engine that has noticeably more grunt than the old 800. It, combined with a more effective P-drive clutch, really makes this combination rev, translating into a flicky feel of the sled on the trails. Between the trees, this machine is an absolute rocket. Then in the bumps, the engine has enough power to hike the skis at will, and it always has enough for that extra blip to launch off a kicker whenever it's needed. The power delivery of the 850 is a near perfect match for the improved RS suspension package of the MXZ. The ride opinion of this buggy with everyone around here is that the RS is the most precise Ski-Doo they have ever ridden. It's just plain fast everywhere. The buzz around here hasn't backed off a single bit since we first rode pre-production units of this machine back in the spring of 2017. And when this machine arrived at our offices, it sucked everyone away from their desks to come back in here and have a look at it. Plus that enthusiasm, well, it's still going strong into the riding season because this thing is still on everyone's honey list.